Packaging design is a much more complex field of graphic design. It is a combination of not just the design principles, but also an understanding of printing techniques and practices, the types of materials and finishes, and even some regulatory requirements. Typically, a packaging design project is a collaborative effort between you as the designer, a client, and a printer or manufacturer. So as packaging designers, we are expected to be familiar with the language used in the print industry. So in this video, I'm going to go through some of the important terms that you should know as a packaging designer. So first, let's start with the Diline. So the Diline is the main template of the packaging design. So think of it more of like a blueprint of your design. It is a guide on where you will place the cuts, the folds, the creases, and where all visual elements will be placed. So basically, it shows you a flat layout of the design and the boundaries of the product packaging that will go through printing. And Dilines are important because of three things. And the first one is it shows the actual dimensions, proportions, and scale of your design. Number two, the cuts and the folds of the Diline is what defines the structure or integrity of the product packaging. And lastly, number three, the Diline also defines the main working area for you as a packaging designer on where you will place the visual elements like logo, the text, the imagery, and other relevant information. So to understand Dilines and its key components, let's have an actual example. Let's start with the trim line. The trim line is where the final cut of the packaging will be made. So essentially, everything beyond this line will be cut off, making this the boundary of your design after production. So the trim line ensures that your packaging has a clean edge and it is cut to its intended dimensions. So next is the bleed. So the bleed is the extra margin that extends beyond the trim line. So usually this is about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch. So one usual error that manufacturers experience are minor shifts or movements during printing or cutting. So one consequence of not adding a bleed is that there is a tendency that there will be awkward white borders or areas, and this is due to like the slight movements during printing or cutting. So in Adobe Illustrator, there is actually an option to automatically add bleed to your workspace. So you can do this by going to File, then Document Setup, and in this section, you just have to define bleed and add a 3 millimeter or 1/8 inch. So this works best for simple die lines with like rectangular or square shape, but for more complex packaging, what you can do is you can select the trim line and then go to Object and then select Path and then Offset Path. Then this allows you to enter a value, so you can just put 3 millimeters or 1/8 inch. Then we have the safe zone. So this is the area inside of the trim line where all your relevant information and elements like logos, text, and other key visuals should be placed. By keeping everything within the safe zone, you eliminate the risk of them being cut off during production. And this is very important for design elements that are located very near the trim line. So understanding and implementing these four terms, the die line, the trim line, the bleed, and the safe zone will really eliminate a lot of the problems associated with printing and production. So die lines are usually provided by the printer or manufacturer, so you can request a copy of the die line before you start the project. So next is proof. So in packaging design, a proof is a test print or a digital preview of your design before it goes into full production. So essentially, it's your last chance to check and validate the quality of your designs before thousands of copies are produced. So a proof can be digital or printed. So a digital proof is a quick way to review any layout issues with your design, and then the printer or manufacturer would usually send like a PDF with their notes, and then you have the chance to amend and make changes to the design. So a printed proof, on the other hand, is an actual physical sample, and the printer will use the same methods, same materials, and same finishing that they will use in final production. So it's really like having an actual copy of the design before they go full-blown in printing. So usually they would send it through mail. Then once everything is approved and everything is okay, that's the time that they can start printing the product. So proofs are extremely important because packaging mistakes can be very costly and expensive. So suppliers or manufacturers usually have an MOQ or minimum order quantity. So imagine a single or a simple packaging mistake can mean thousands of wasted copies of your packaging. So if you have like a printed proof, you can check for the accuracy of colors, check if everything is how it is supposed to look. You can check for the readability of the text and the fonts and even the logo. For the images, you can check for blurring or pixelation. Then you can also check the quality of the finishes. Now let's go to some of the terms related to color. So let's start with the CMYK, or cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. So CMYK is a color model used in most standard printing processes. So it works by combining 4 inks with varying amounts to create a wide range of colors. So think of it like mixing paint. So you add different amounts, proportions of paint to come up with a specific hue. So this is similar to how CMYK works. So one thing to keep in mind is that colors can appear slightly different on print than what you see on the screen. So when you are doing packaging design, in Adobe Illustrator for example, your document should be in the CMYK color profile. That way you have the most accurate representation of the final printed color. And colors may appear slightly darker on some materials like uncoated paper or matte materials because they absorb much more ink compared to glossy materials. So next is Pantone, or the Pantone Matching System, or simply PMS. So Pantone is a standardized color system that is recognized globally. So it is used to have consistency in color across different mediums and across different locations. Unlike CMYK, the inks used in Pantone are pre-mixed, meaning they are exact and consistent every time. So for packaging designers, a nice tool to have is the Pantone color book or the color chart. So basically, this is a collection of like rectangular Pantone samples that you can use to match the color of your packaging to that of a Pantone color. This, however, can be very expensive. So one thing to note here is that a Pantone color has a unique code. So whether you're printing in New York or in Tokyo, or if you are working with multiple suppliers, you will get the exact same color. Many companies, especially the big ones, use Pantone colors to make sure that every product looks the same in every batch of printing and in every market. Lastly, Pantone has the capability to create colors that CMYK cannot do. So things like fluorescent or neon colors, and also metallics. So those are the terms related to color. Now let's go to the next term, which is substrate. A substrate is basically the material on which your design is printed. So the substrate is the physical surface that gives your material its feel, appearance, and texture. So the substrate that will be used in a project will depend on the desired look as well as the functionality of the packaging. So it can be a simple paper or paperboard for things like cereals or dry food. It can be plastics for liquid, snacks, and personal care products. And it can be metals for tin cans and aluminum bottles for different beverages. Now let's go to some of the terms related to finishes. So you've probably heard me mention the term finishing or finishes early in the video. So in simple terms, a finish is the final surface treatment of a product packaging. The finish is the layer that gives your box, your bag, or your bottle that extra flair. Whether it's a smooth touch, a shiny look, or like a textured feel. So you can think of finishing as the icing on the cake or the cherry on top. It does not only enhance the overall look of the product packaging, but it can also convey quality and also your brand personality. First up is hot foil stamping. So this is a technique where a metallic foil is applied to your packaging using heat and pressure. So you've probably seen this with gold, silver accents, or even iridescent or rainbow-like effect on luxury products. And it's perfect for adding a touch of elegance and makes your design stand out with that shiny, reflective, and metallic feel. So next is embossing or debossing. So embossing and debossing are two finishing techniques, and embossing is where you raise certain elements above the surface, while debossing is where you push it in, creating like a subtle impression. So the main reason why you want to emboss or deboss certain elements is really about adding like a textural experience to the design. So it adds interest when you introduce depth, and the overall effect of this is that the design is not just something that you see, but something that you also feel. Another technique is UV coating. So UV coating is a type of finishing technique where a layer of clear gloss or matte coating is applied. It is treated and cured under ultraviolet light, thus the term UV coating. UV coating gives your packaging a high gloss sheen. So the effect of this is making the colors pop, while at the same time giving additional layer of protection against wear and tear, making it resistant to scratches, moisture, or even color fading. So these are the three most common finishing techniques used in packaging, and you can actually combine two or all of them to create a more dynamic feel. However, the choice of finishing should align with the brand's visual identity, the target market, and even the budget of your client. So the last term that you should know is barcode. So the barcode is the component of a packaging design that is used to identify a product, track inventory, and also manage assets. So a barcode has two sections. So the first one is a series of black lines, and directly below it is a series of numbers. Perhaps the most common use of barcodes that I think we all know is to provide a reference for a product that can be scanned at the counter when you check out from the store. So each barcode is unique and acts like a fingerprint of the product. It provides essential information like the official name, inventory status, and of course, the pricing. Okay, so barcodes are registered through the GS1, which is the main governing body for barcodes. So if you have a packaging design project and your client needs barcodes, you can ask them to register through the GS1 of their country, and once they have registered their product, they can send you the official image or the barcode that you can use for the design. And there can be different barcode formats depending on where the product is sold and where it is registered to, and some can have longer number series while some have shorter. And there you have it. These are the most common terms that you should know as a packaging designer. My goal here is to provide you like the confidence to talk about packaging with your client and his supplier or manufacturer. And I also want to give you a bit of information about what goes into the printing side of packaging. Again, thank you so much for joining me in this video. Like, share, and subscribe for more graphic design content. So keep designing, keep inspiring, and keep creating. And I'll see you in the next video.